The Article 50 process is now underway, and in accordance with the wishes of the British people, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. This is an historic moment from which there can be no turning back. We are going to make our own decisions and our own laws.
It's happening.
We know our order.
That moment between right and the top, this is spewing out.
Clonus never hit the boom period. Clonus lost a lot of stuff before the recession. And when the boom came, Clonus, because of its probably location on the border, never had all the big buildings. There's no ghost house in States in Clonus because there was no big building of houses. The latest recession happened, Clonus suffered again as the town that was really suffering as it was. So it has really been crippled. A lot of that is down to the funding to the border regions. It's quite poor. And this is not just Clonus, this is many small towns, I suppose, around the country, but specifically on the border.
It's been difficult for people along the border and in border towns since 1921. It got a hell of a lot easier since the Good Friday Agreement, since the creation of the single market, since the ceasefires. The border regions of both jurisdictions are still arguably, and the statistics will show this, the least economically developed of both jurisdictions. Will that situation improve? I think again, economic literature would suggest not. That's why you've had interventions such as the Interreg funds, such as the peace funds, such as the various structural funds. All of these have been designed to help those regions to overcome the legacy of the past.
5 years ago, my father took a wee bit unwell at the time, and then I decided to come back and give it a go. It's a small hotel, it's a family-run hotel. My parents would be in it since about the early 80s. My sister came back in maybe about the guts of 10 years ago, and then myself and my sister are the two managers at the moment running the business. And the parents are kind of still in the background, but that's the way it is at the moment.
We've been in business for 25 years in this location. We opened in 1992. There's 8 roads leading into Clonus, and 5 of them were closed. Well, 4 of them were closed and 1 was manned by a British Army checkpoint due to the Troubles. They reopened in 1996 and we haven't really looked back since. But we've worked really, really hard to get our northern customers back in, and it's gradually getting them back in. And we just fear that Brexit is just going to rip this away from us again.
My father before me was in business in Clonus, and then we bought this farm here in mid-80s, and I suppose in the early 90s then I would have started into the yard here. The yard hadn't been here before, and I was starting in with first of all at the fuel end of it, and then went into the solid fuel and went from there till hardware or whatever. So that's where we are today. Half of this yard here is in Northern Ireland and the other half of it is in Southern Ireland. Now, people might think, well listen, that is manufactured that way for a gain or whatever. It was never the case. Like when we bought the yard, there was buildings on the yard that was used as agricultural business. Now, we would have transformed them into what they are today, and that'd be a shop and the hardware and whatever. So like the more than the bother was always there. It was never bought purposely, because when we bought it, I never thought that it was going to be a fuel yard or whatever. It just materialised that it came that way.
There's lots of people will talk about negative things if they come to Clonus, not having been here in years. But there's loads of good things and positive things.
The Peace Link is very unique here in the fact it's so close to the border. We're only a couple of miles from the border here, and the Peace Link was funded through European money. It's part of the, I suppose, building the legacy of the peace process, and it's a fantastic spot here. You can see the running track, and there's a fantastic centre in here, a lovely big gym, and it's used on a cross-border basis as well. Lots of people come from Fermanagh, which is quite close. There's loads of runners from Enniskillen, and there's soccer clubs from Northern Ireland use the pitch, and it's very well used on a cross-border basis. So it's a great asset to the area here.
We are the first club that is affiliated to the IFA in Northern Ireland who has been allowed to play in the Republic of Ireland, so we have very unique circumstances. The reason how or why we came to do this because our Macrovilli village itself is located about 3 miles away just in the north, so therefore it makes sense for us to try and play a pitch as available to ourselves. Due to facilities in Fermanagh, other teams using other facilities, we have been unable to get our own facilities due to extreme high costs and everything else in maintaining pitches. And we basically, in previous years, since we've been formed, had to go to play games in 5 Mile Town, which is 22 or 23 miles away, same as Enniskillen. So being able to use these facilities 3 miles away from our own home is absolutely fantastic.
A 5K race has just finished here. There was a couple of hundred people who took part in it. It was a road league that takes place in Monaghan, and you get so many points for taking part in it. So there was one last Sunday in Monaghan town, and there's one during the winter, and you know there's points for it. So there's so many people involved in it here. So
we have been given dispensation to allow to play in the Republic of Ireland as a Northern Ireland affiliated club. However, in a couple of years' time, whenever Brexit kicks in, we may not be allowed to play our home games here due to Brexit. Obviously, nobody knows what's the situation and what's going to happen. So if that does happen and we're not allowed to play them, obviously we'll have to then go back to play over 20 miles away for our home games. So obviously that will have an impact on being able to attract local players, because at the minute we have players who play for us from the Republic of Ireland in locations like Cavan, Cootehill, Clonus, you know, all around the surrounding area. So we're able to attract players from this geographical part of the country, because that's where we're basically from. But if we have to move away, we could then maybe lose them players because of it.
I have a big fear at the moment for us as a business that there is going to be a hard border of any type. We have done massive work here in the hotel over the last 5 years. We've renovated the whole place, and we've still more stuff we're planning. But we'd be very cautious at the moment to know what way things are going to go. If it was back to a case like, I don't remember really we've never been in business size looking at what's coming in and out of a business when the roads are closed. But I know for sure that 50% of our business comes across the border, at least. So if that border is closed, or if there's any sort of any reason to put people off coming into the hotel, that's not going to help us businessly. It can't help. It'll have a real negative effect. So if you're going to Cavan on the main road here, you go to a border. If people start going alternative routes, pass and trade will be hit as well. So it's massive.
We live day to day at the minute, you know, and hoping that nothing will come off it that will do us any harm. To access this yard, you have to come through Northern Ireland. Now, there is maybe another alternative. We can come into the yard via Southern Ireland, but the path into it would have to be upgraded at a lot of cost. I'm hoping that I don't have to do that, but what lies ahead of me, I'm not sure.
At the moment, we haven't a clue. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what's going to happen, if it's going to be soft border, hard border. It's just impossible to tell what's going to happen.
Within a couple of mile radius here, you could cross the border a few times.
And you wouldn't even realise it, would you?
No, you wouldn't realise it. Well, for the younger generation, they certainly wouldn't know it because they've never seen it. You know, for the like of me and people older, we have seen it, so we'd have a fair idea where the borders are.
Remember that 5-kilometre race? Using a map application on my smartphone, I decided to follow the route the runners took to see how many times I would cross the border. These two signs indicate that I am crossing into Northern Ireland. This British-style roadwork sign confirms that I am in Northern Ireland. Now, I have just crossed over one of many invisible borders and I'm back in the Republic of Ireland. See the sign just ahead? This marks the border. However, I'm turning left here and driving alongside the border. Yet somewhere along this road, I have crossed over another invisible border and am back in Northern Ireland. And this is confirmed by the give way sign, as in the Republic of Ireland, the sign would say yield. We travel a small bit further up the road, and the only indication that we are back in the Republic of Ireland is the 80 km/h road sign, as in the United Kingdom, the imperial system is used.
There's 310 miles of border. There's 300 crossings just between Northern Ireland. It's impossible to man. Even technically, if you have cameras everywhere, there's farmlands that are in both north and south. It's absolutely impossible to stop the smuggling.
There's other areas of the border region that's really still strong for smuggling diesels and different things. So, listen, there could be. It could be potentially, I'm not going to say it's an opportunity for other people to make business, but whatever they're into. Like,
customs authorities do what they are obliged to do. I mean, at the end of the day, if you take a shipment, if you make something here, you make a widget, and you want to sell it to someone in another jurisdiction, essentially that jurisdiction has to accept your widget to be placed on its market for sale. That jurisdiction will have rules around the production of the widget, standards it must meet, for example. How does that other jurisdiction ensure that those standards have been met?
There's milk comes in from the north and it's processed here in Monaghan, like it's processed in Monaghan. So what's going to happen there? If there's duty on milk coming into the Republic, or duty on milk leaving the Republic, just different things like that. We just need to get, are there going to be duties? What are they going to be?
Theresa May brought out our white paper. It's the first we've seen in terms of what what the plans they have on it. We've heard a lot of speculation and a lot of talk. This is the first time we've seen something down in black and white.
Right now what the British government is proposing in effect is that, well, you will do it, you'll report to them that it's being done, and they will accept that it's done and allow you therefore to sell it in some kind of a formal approval, maybe an email message or something. Don't know what they mean, but perhaps you can imagine it's that. Now, if, for example, they suddenly discover in a few years' time that of 100 widgets being sold that are coming across the border from the south, 20 are coming from a source that doesn't pay any taxes or avoids actually submitting details or submitting wrong details, and it doesn't maintain the new standard that's been put in place that's a higher standard, more safe for Northern Ireland consumers compared to Southern consumers. Well, how are you going to actually do anything about that? You can't send your customs officers across the border to visit you. You could ask your customs authorities colleagues in the south to visit you, but they'll say, well, hang on a minute, he's keeping our rules. He's doing nothing wrong here. So what do? You end up having to stop those widgets at the border or stop the person carrying those widgets.
There should be freedom of movement, but if there's checkpoints, there'll be hold-ups, and that's going to be very difficult. And then you've an awful lot of people from Clonus working in Enniskillen and the likes, and if they're being stopped every morning, and even you have a truck in front of you and it's stopped and you're waiting and everything, it's going to just it's real regression. You know, we're going back to the bad 90s. So we can't have that, really. We really can't.
We've put a hell of a lot of work into doing everything for the club, from start to finish. I say, whenever we only started, we only had the one team. It was full of local players, and we gained our promotion. Since then, we've obviously been able to attract different players from different areas. So whether we're actually allowed permission to play in this facility in the future, no one knows. And that's pretty much it.
Theresa May is handling this really, really poorly. She's not dealing with it at all. She's putting some ideas out there which make no sense, like saying we want a soft border, we want to get out of the customs union, but we want to stay in the customs union until it suits us to leave. And it's making no sense whatsoever. It's making there's no decisions being made.
From her side of it, I don't think she's worried about anyone along the border. I don't know what's the 250 roads that lead, by roads or main roads lead from the north side. I don't think she's that worried about. I think she's worried about obviously the UK and their trading deals with the EU. I think Clonus, I think Ireland's seen as a small fish on it.
Theresa May has never asked me my opinion in this yard, or never has asked anyone. I don't think in the line of business that we are in, I've never heard her asking anyone what is their belief as to what should happen or shouldn't happen. So, you know, she's took this upon herself. And
they seem to be wanting out of Brexit, and yet now want all the benefits of staying in. So I think that she has a difficulty there, and I read somewhere lately that if there's another referendum on Brexit, it may go the opposite way. But I think she's hamstrung. I think she had a very bad election, and as a result of that, she's damaged as well. But listen, you have to deal with who's there, and I don't think they know what they're doing themselves, so it's very difficult for the Irish people to know what's going on with Brexit.
I don't think they can vote for Brexit and then have it their own way. I don't think it's just going to go as she likes at the moment.
I've no doubt that if there was to be a general election again, Theresa May will not have to worry about it.
Do you think the majority of the British people who voted to leave were misled?
Absolutely, they were misled about the 350 million for the NHS, 350 million every week, I think it was, and different things as well. It was a vote on migration, it was a vote on immigrants coming into the country. That's what it was.
You look at those, and those who voted for Brexit, even, or those who in the United States voted for Trump. They're generally people who feel left out, people who feel excluded, people who feel alienated from politics, from economics, from jobs, from the system. People who hark back to a past that has somehow been lost and not been replaced by a new hope, a new future, a new possibility.
I think a lot of them will regret it. Maybe there's some that are still happy on it, but I think that if it was happened again in the morning, I'd be surprised if it wasn't a wee bit. It was close as it was, so I'd be surprised if it wasn't a decision to stay in the EU.
My left foot here is in Monaghan and my right foot here is in Fermanagh.
So in 2 years' time, if you were to do the same, you would say
I'd probably have to jump over the wall here maybe, and I don't know. You've heard talk of United Ireland now last maybe number of months, more so than like you've ever heard it before, and be talking to people, yes, it's more of a reality now than maybe ever before, and I don't know whether me or you'll ever see the day that you'll see it. I don't know. Most
nationalists in Ireland aspire to a united Ireland, and it's brought this conversation on an awful lot further now in terms of united Ireland. It's brought it onto the table. I think it's very important that we bring all the parties in Northern Ireland on this journey with the unionists and nationalists together, and the conversation, it's very important having the conversation, bringing everybody along in terms of having a united Ireland, and I think it's down the line, but I think that conversation's brought further on now because of Brexit.
I don't believe we're prepared yet for a united Ireland. The North is heavily dependent on civil servants. I think it's sort of 60% civil service. That's a big problem to deal with. You've got free medical care in the North and everything. I just don't think we can afford it at the moment either. Possibly down the road in 20 years or so, but not just now. There's only one solution to this, I think, and that's another vote in the UK, and hopefully get a no vote. But will that happen? Maybe, maybe not.
The most important thing with Brexit is to keep the peace and keep working towards building bridges between the North and the South.
If there can be a supplementary agreement after the Article 50 negotiations, which actually improves and enhances and takes forward the process that this agreement started effectively, then that will be a good outcome.
I want to be able to drive, for example, out the side you hear, 5 miles to Newtown Butler. I don't want to be stopped. I want to be able to go the next 8 miles into Listonskee, and I want to be able to go the next 10 miles down to Skillen and not be stopped on the road, be able to drive the car, go do the shopping if I want and come back. I wanted to stay as it is. I wanted to improve. I want the road to get better, not worse.
I basically would want no bother, and we can walk if we don't have a bother. I think that's basically the long and the short of it.
We have had challenging times before here along the border, and we always go through them, and I've no doubt we'll get through these as well.
If you set a simple target of having a peaceful and prosperous population of 10 million this century on this island, we would really have got somewhere, wouldn't we, in leaving the legacies of the past behind.